Good morning everyone. Today is e-bike demo day. I love demoing new bikes, and today I've got a pretty special one. This is the Cannondale Moterra. Now I must admit, when I was buying an e-bike for myself, never even considered this model, but it actually ticks a lot of my boxes. It's 160 mils of travel, it's a 29er front and back, and it's got a decent sized battery at 625 watt hours. So it ticks a lot of my boxes. Now, been very lucky to demo this bike today. Jamie from BRM Cycles let me take it out for the day. I would like to point out that I'm not paid to ride any of these bikes. In fact, most of them I end up paying to ride them. So if I say something nasty about the bike, it's just my honest opinion. It's not like I'm insulting your mother, so don't get upset. But anyway, let's have a bit more of a look around this bike. Alright, so let's get a wee look at this thing. First up, well, it looks quite attractive really. The colour's rather understated, but I quite like it actually. It's quite a nice looking bike. Carbon front triangle, aluminium rear triangle, and also it's pretty nicely spec'd out. Got a set of Fox 36s at the front, matched out the back with a DPX2 rear shock. So if I was going to choose suspension, that's pretty much what I would put on it. Drivetrain has the SRAM 12-speed XO, so again, pretty high-end sort of drivetrain for this thing. And the motor is the Bosch motor, the new 85 Newton meter Bosch motor, married up with a 625 watt-hour battery. Now, one of the things I noticed on this bike, and we'll swing around to the other side, is it's got Magura brakes on this thing, and get a load of look at those rotors, man. Are they not badass or what? I'm not familiar with Magura brakes, but really keen to give them a go. Also changed as well is they've got rid of that ugly little box on the handlebar on the left hand side and got a nice more neat little controller there and a little display in the center. Now the display, I believe, does maps and all sorts of information, your calories and all sorts of things. So probably a bit complicated for me, but we'll have a look at that on the way around. Does also have light on the front which runs off the battery, so I guess if you want a bit of night riding or just riding on the street, that might be useful to you. Dropper post, of course. Bike wouldn't be a bike without a dropper post. Down low, got no idea who makes those or what they're like. If you know any more about those, you could maybe let me know. Couple of things I'd probably change about this bike before I if it was mine, I'd get rid of this big stack here and probably slam the bars down a bit lower. And the other thing I did notice as well is that when I was bringing it here on the back of my bike rack, this plastic is quite flimsy and it actually distorted with the weight of the bike. So maybe if you were transporting this bike, you may not want it to rest on that plastic cover. But otherwise, I guess what you really want to know is how does it ride? And that's exactly what we're going to do now. I always love it when you look down and you're doing 20 kilometers an hour uphill. Quite like the little display there. And the sound of the motor, actually I think this is probably one of the quietest Bosch motors I've ever ridden. It sounds pretty good actually. Now I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I try and ride this bike to the limits, well to my limits on it anyway, and I do go a little bit past that, so I do have quite a crash at the end, but if you want to see what happens, you'll have to wait to the end of the video. And don't fast forward through it, watch the video and see what happens at the end. Now I normally start off on a pretty easy track when I'm demoing the bike, but to be honest I've sort of jumped on this thing and I feel quite at home on it straight away. So I'm right next to a track with some jumps on it, so I thought why not just start with some jumps. Now, if you do listen carefully, there is a little bit of the old Bosch creak groan sort of noise that it makes. It just seems to be a common thing with those Bosch bikes. This one's not too bad, but you can hear it, and during times on this trial, it becomes more noticeable. I have been told that if you stick some gutter witch or some foam padding between the battery and the frame, it can make quite a difference. And I'm not sure if that's been done on this bike. Saying that, it's not that annoying, and I could certainly live with it, I think. I'm having that much fun on these jumps, I must admit that a little bit of a creak at this point isn't putting me off. Okay, so decided to cut in on a track called G-Banger. Combination of sort of tech and jumps, so it seemed a pretty good test for the bike. Wanted to test out its suspension, Fox front and back. I'm always been a bit of a Fox fan, and Jamie had set the suspension up for me for my weight, so that always makes a big difference, I believe. Now the bike I thought handled really well in terms of suspension. It was just set up perfectly for me. Didn't bottom out anything all day. No sort of chatter over the sort of rooty stuff. Was really good. Now I believe this bike retails for about 14,000 New Zealand dollars, and if you do live in Auckland, as a BRM Cycles in Huapai do supply these, so as I say, I'm sure you could twist his arm and do a deal. Now again, don't get paid anything to demo these bikes. In fact, as I mentioned, I do actually end up crashing this bike, and I end up having to pay for some damages I did to the bike. So this bike, this ride actually ended up costing me money. But anyway, it was still an awesome to get a chance to ride this thing. Alright, so we've been out riding the bike for now 20-30 minutes, and I must admit, normally it takes me about that long to just sort of get the feel of it and be comfortable with it. But for some reason, this thing just feels right for me. Felt that I could jump it first run. I didn't even try an easy run, I just went straight into the jumps. I guess it's very similar to my normal bike, slightly longer at a 475 reach rather than 450, but a 66-degree head angle, the same as mine, and yeah, similar weight, but so far really enjoying riding the bike. It's a good fun bike to ride. But anyway, let's go find some more tracks. Okay, I guess the next thing on the list must be the drivetrain. A 12-speed EXO drivetrain. Pretty nicely spec drivetrain on this thing, and to be honest, it ran as you'd expect, pretty much flawlessly. So I had no issues with the drivetrain at all. I do wonder though, with e-bikes, with the power output of these things and how fast they chew through chains and drivetrains, whether it isn't worth, you know, someone developing more e-bike specific drivetrains. Do we really even need 12 speeds? Would a 9 or a 10 speed drivetrain with a thicker chain be quite adequate for an e-bike? I think it would, to be honest, and you would go through more drivetrains maybe, or maybe they would be more robust. But you know, it's all very well you buy a new bike and then suddenly you have to buy a new 12 speed cassette and you have to sell one of your kidneys to get it. Now the other thing that was new to me was the Magura brakes. Never ridden a bike with them on before. I got no idea how easy they are to get pads for, how easy they are to change the pads, how easy they are to get fixed. But I must say, these were the most powerful brakes that I have ever ridden on an e-bike, or for that matter, just about on any bike. These things had unbelievable stopping power. In fact, it took me a little bit of time to get used to them, so that I didn't actually sort of almost throw myself on the thing. But yeah, the brakes were super impressive. So I pretty much did all of this ride in the EMTB setting on the Bosch motor, and that's how I like to ride these bikes. It's kind of the automatic setting. Now recently I did a video comparing the Bosch and the Bros motor, and someone called me an idiot for riding the bike in the EMTB setting. However, I'm just flicking back and forward here between turbo and EMTB and climbing a steep hill with a lot of effort, and I can tell you for one thing, you get no more assistance in turbo mode. So maybe I'm not a complete idiot. Okay, so it's safe to say at this point that I'm really enjoying this bike. In fact, this may actually be the nicest e-bike that I've ever ridden. And often you say, well, would I swap it for my bike? And yeah, I think I would. It feels very similar to my Levo, slightly longer, and I think I actually kind of like that. So far, yeah, I'm really enjoying this bike. Is there anything I don't like about it? Well, being a little bit petty, but the light is kind of cool, but it's a little bit ugly looking, to be honest. And talking of sort of messy and ugly, it's got cables all over the place. There's cables from the light to the handlebar to control that, and then there's from the power control switch back to the display panel, and then from the display panel to the frame. So there's a lot of cables going on. Being petty, but as I say, I like a clean, tidy looking bike. I guess it does have the Bosch motor, and certainly they seem to be winning the reliability stakes at the moment. And reliability is a big thing. There's nothing worse than going out on a big long ride and kind of worrying that your bike is going to fail halfway through the ride. And so, yeah, I think, you know, the Bosch motor these days may be the one to go for, but I know that's going to create some controversy. But overall, yeah, really enjoying riding this thing so far. Now some of you are only still watching this video because I said there's a crash in it, and we're on a jump track here. There's a steep downhill into a gap jump, and so this is the track that I crash on. So you're thinking Lance obviously messes up this jump and hurts himself, but no, sweet as. But I decide to see if I can ride back up the hill. I don't think I can make it. It's very steep. The GoPro does this no justice at all, but this is really steep. I didn't think I could possibly get the bike up here, but it just keeps getting traction and just keeps going, and I'm basically at the top.
Oh shit! Fuck! Ah, shit! An uphill crash, eh? Oh, that's what happens when you're clipped in. Ooh. It's gonna hurt.
You bet that hurt. That really hurt. Look how far we fell. We were right up the top there, flipped over backwards, and ended up all the way down here at the bottom. I must admit, as I realised what was going to happen, I looked over my shoulder and I was absolutely petrified. I must admit, I was sore for a long time after this. Lots of bashed up bruises, a ripped elbow. Yeah, very sore. Ended up breaking the shifter on the bike, which was a bit annoying. I had to pay for that to be replaced. But anyway, I survived. Okay, so that wasn't how I planned to finish the video. I was thinking that I needed to show what the bike could and couldn't do, so I decided to put it through an ultimate test and climb it up that steep hill there. I didn't actually think it would get up there, and I surprised myself that I was still going quite near the top, and I was so close to the top I thought I could make it, but of course I couldn't. It was that steep that of course if you stopped on there, I ended up, as you saw, did a roll back down the hill. Did end up breaking the little power control button, so you could argue that's a little bit flimsy. Maybe a weakness in the product does stick out a little bit, but overall that's an outstanding bike. I really enjoyed riding it. I'm going to call it a day now because I'm a bit sore, but definitely the question is, would I buy one? And yes, I would buy one. I really like the bike. So anyway, I'm going to go and have a lie down now because I'm a bit sore, but anyway, we'll see you on the next one.